Welcome to another edition of the Radio Coffee House Show, where Jesus meets coffee meets talk radio. And the next one starts right now. What's up, everybody? Clint Armitage with the Radio Coffee House, going into another episode. We're still in Nehemiah. Now we're on part 3 of Nehemiah, except this time we're going to be talking about some actions that are going on, the actual building of the wall and parts of Jerusalem there. That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Also, we're going to be discussing a change with the prayer challenge and the giveaway and all that, and we'll talk about that as well. So let's get into it. Okay, how's it going, everybody? Clint Armitage with the Radio Coffee House. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening in. This is part 3, as you just heard in the intro, of Nehemiah and the Prayer Challenge. So what we have going on, couple things. We're going to talk about the prayer challenge that we set up last episode, and then also the giveaway that we talked about. And then we're going to get into Nehemiah chapter 3 with all the different things that are going to be happening, which is basically the actions. So we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit and talking about that. But first, I want to talk about the prayer challenge and about the giveaway. So if you hadn't heard from last time, we set up a prayer challenge and a giveaway. And the prayer challenge is still the same. It's going to a restaurant, your favorite restaurant, and then ordering some food. And when the food comes out, let them know that you normally pray before you eat, and if there's a prayer that you can say for the server, the wait person, or their family member or something like that, so someone in their family. And like I said, it's been 100%, and every server that I have dealt with over these last few months have literally asked for some type of prayer. So, and it's not awkward, and it works so well, the transition works so well, and it's so good that you can kind of pray for somebody, a complete stranger, and then there's a connection there, and then the Lord is actually entered into the conversation with you and this stranger, this wait person. And again, it's not awkward at all. So anyways, the prayer challenge, that I still challenge you to use that prayer challenge and go for that and see if the Lord will do something within that context. Now, in terms of the giveaway, we ran into a little bit of problems. So we're going to regroup here. But basically what happens, we put out a giveaway. We're going to give away money for, these little games we're playing on Instagram and all that. Well, there was a problem on Instagram because we did the post, and over 3 days, we saw that there were zero watches on it. That's what the stats showed us, that there was 0 people that saw it over the 3 days. And now that's kind of weird that nobody would see it. And we had everything set when we posted it, so there should have been something, but there wasn't. The insights showed us that nobody saw it. So we're like, what is going on here? Well, then I started thinking, so I have 2 YouTube channels. One is my, both are for my business. One is my shooting channel, and then the other one is a non-shooting channel. It's still about guns, but it's not a shooting channel. And so I know what I did one time was I uploaded the same video on both my shooting channel and my non-shooting channel on YouTube. I uploaded the same video at the same time, brand new video. Well, I have more subscribers on my shooting channel than I did on my non-shooting channel. And then what I saw was the non-shooting channel, that video actually went, and there was there's thousands of views on that video. The same video on my shooting channel had very few views. I mean, it was like 20s. It was super, super low. So it appeared to be suppressed. And I can only assume, and again, this is just an assumption, but I'm assuming that it's because it's on my shooting channel, and, social media or big tech does not particularly like to support or promote any type of shooting stuff. So the algorithm does not pick that up at all. So there's thousands of views on that same video on my non-shooting channel, and there's only a handful of views on my shooting channel. So that's what happened. I was like, so I didn't feel real good about that. Well, I think that's what's going on with the Instagram account that we started up for Radio Coffee House in terms of putting this post out. On Instagram, all my accounts are linked. So my shooting account is actually linked to the Radio Coffee House. So what I'm thinking is it's part of that whole not allowing the algorithm to pick it up, and so it's not going to do too well at all. And as a matter of fact, it did nothing. Over 3 days, it did nothing. So it took that post down, and now we're going to regroup. We're going to pray about it. And we're going to see what the Lord wants to do. Maybe the Lord doesn't want, giveaways, but either way, we're going to regroup, go back to the drawing board. We're going to pray about it and see where the Lord leads. Maybe we'll go to a different social media page. We'll use one of our other accounts or something. We'll see how it's going to work, but we're just going to have to wait for the Lord on that. So now what we have moving forward here is Nehemiah chapter 3. Remember, we talked about chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 talked about Nehemiah's prayer, and we looked at that, how it could affect or how we could use that model in the Christian's prayer life life in order to call out to God for something that he has put on your heart. And then chapter 2, we saw how Nehemiah prayed for the opportunity and the Lord opened up the door for the opportunity, and then he took the opportunity and he really took it. And then we got an introduction of the initial type of pushback that you may get. And we talked about how that's the beginning of maybe a business model where you start to pray for what God has put in your heart, and then when God gives you opportunity, you take it. And then you start to cast your vision in order to find supporters. You talk about the pros and the cons and the benefits and consequences, and you put it out there to others to see if they want to be involved in your project, whether it be a business like this business model we're talking about, or it could be along the same lines as a ministry as well. You're still trying to cast your vision and get God, whoever God has called to help you, to come and support the mission, which again could be business or it could be ministry. So it falls in line with that. And that's chapter 2. And you saw what Nehemiah did in there, and he did the research and got his project started. Well, in chapter 3, what we're going to see is we're going to actually see some action, and we're going to see that everybody has a part to play. We're a body of believers, and the church can come together and do what it's been called to do. Its little piece, its little section. That's what we're going to see here. Now we're going to be jumping around a little bit because if I just read through, it's kind of going to be monotonous, but you're going to get the feel of it. So I'm going to read through, get the feel, jump to the next section and read through, and you'll see how you can get the feel of what I'm talking about here, about the church playing its part and the people playing its part in the vision of whatever the Lord has casted here. And in this case, it's Nehemiah and building the wall and collecting a whole bunch of people to help him out. And it's going to be all the people from Jerusalem. Then after that, I'm going to be talking about the history of how this all came about. Okay, so here we go. Let's start in chapter 3, Nehemiah verse 1. Eliashib, the high priest, and his fellow priests went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zakur, son of Imri, built next to them. The fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hassanah. They laid its beams and put its doors and bolts and bars in place. Meremoth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakkoz, repaired the next section. Next to him, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the son of Meshezabel, made repairs. And next to him, Zadok, son of Baana, also made repairs. The next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. Okay, so you see in the first 5 verses here, you kind of start to see what's happening. People are taking part. So it's not only Nehemiah. So just like a business or a ministry, you're going to need some help, especially if the Lord calls for other people to be involved, to grow, and to get this project done. Well, in this case, in Nehemiah's case, that's what happens here. He cast the vision, and then people are coming to the aid and actually doing their part. And you notice it talks about this section and then the next section and then next to him. And that's how it started. And that's how it's going to go through all this whole chapter, is you're going to notice that people are doing their little piece, their little calling of their little part of the wall. And so when you get people to do their little part, whether it's in a business or ministry or in this project with the wall, you see how it can be built a lot faster and with a bunch of people. So you're going to need that to get this job done because it's a big job. Okay, let's move on to verse 6. The Jeshanah gate was repaired by Joiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besodiah. They laid its beams and put its doors and bolts and bars in place. Next to them, repairs were made by the men of Gibeon and Mizpah, Melatiah of Gibeon, and Jadon of Meronoth, places under the authority of the governor of Trans-Euphrates. Uzziel, son of Herahiah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the next section, and Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Okay, so that's verse 8. And again, you see more of the same thing. People working together to get the job done. Now, what you're not going to see, you're not going to see issues. You're not going to see issues in this. What this is just listing is that they're doing their job. Yeah, I'm sure there was some, there's some holdups and there was some, hiccups and stuff like this as they were doing their job and getting stuff done. But the Bible records in Nehemiah here how they just got the job done. They just did what they were supposed to do, the work that was placed in front of them. And so we're going to continue on here in verse 9. Raphiah, son of Hur, ruler of the half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section. Adjoining this, Jedediah, son of Harumaph, made repairs opposite his house, and Hattush, son of Hashabaniah, made repairs next to him. Milkijah, son of Haram, and Hashub, son of Pahath Moab, repaired another section and the Tower of the Ovens. Shalom, son of Haloesh, ruler of the half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. So what you're seeing here is you're starting to see how not only all the people are called together here and starting working together, but you're seeing some people that have some clout, some people that the rulers of, like you see the ruler of the half district of Jerusalem, and then you're seeing these people pitch in. Even it says in the last thing that the ruler of the half district of Jerusalem repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. So the whole family was involved in getting these sections done. And you notice they talked about getting repairs done opposite their house, like right near their house. So they're doing everything within their section. Just like the Great Commission, right? It starts off in our area and then it goes on further and further and further out. And that's how it should be with a business and with a ministry. We start with our bubble, our world, right? Our immediate area is what we start with. We do the projects there, we do the repairs there, and then we move out further and further and further. It's kind of like that ripple effect, right? You throw a pebble into the water and it hits in the center, and then the ripples kind of go out from there. And what you see is that the touch of that one pebble in the center spot actually goes on forever, for a long period of time, and touches a whole bunch of other things. And that's the same thing with us. When we're called to ministry, we're called to business. God's always going to be involved, and his plan is to reach the world. And so everybody has their part. So we do our little part, and then the ripple effect goes. We don't know what God can do with our little, right? The 5 loaves and 2 fish. We just bring what we have, and the Lord will take it from there. Now we're on verse 13 here. And actually, we can skip ahead because it's going to be the same type of thing where everybody's doing their part, and you kind of get the point of what we're talking about. So we're going to jump a little bit further, and you'll hear a little bit more of that, but we'll get through this section here about how this kind of started in the connection and the way the Lord works with calling people together. Let's go to verse 22. The repairs next to him were made by the priests from the surrounding region. Beyond them, Benjamin and Hashub made repairs in front of their house, and next to them, Azariah, son of Messiah, the son of Ananiah, made repairs beside his house. Next to him, Benui, son of Henadad, repaired another section, from Azariah's house to the angle and to the corner. And Palal, son of Uzziah, worked opposite the angle and the tower projecting from the upper palace near the court of the guard. Next to him, Pedadiah, son of Parosh, and the temple servants living on the hill of Ophel made repairs up to a point opposite the water gate toward the east and the projecting tower. Next to them, the men of Tekoa repaired another section from the great projecting tower of the wall of Ophel. All right, so what you can see in those 5 verses there is you do see it's kind of made clear there that they were repairing areas near their houses. See, in verse 23 it says, Benjamin and Hashub made repairs in front of their house. And next to them, Azariah, son of Messiah, the son of Ananiah, made repairs beside his house. So, a couple things here. That is the best way to do things, because your immediate area of influence is everything around you. So you can do your best work around you. Now, when we start off small, and that's it. We start off small. We start in the sections that we're given, the allotted amount that we're given. Again, it's the 5 loaves and 2 fish kind of thing, right? Andrew finds the little kid with a little bit of food, and then he brings him to Jesus, and then Jesus turns it into a miracle and feeds all kinds of thousands of people. And so what we can take from that is the same thing. When we're starting a business, where we're starting a ministry, as we're going to touch people, just touch people where you're at. With the prayer challenge thing, all I was doing was I thought, hey, the Lord called me, I believe, to Cracker Barrel. Well, because we were passing Cracker Barrel, I was on the road and continue to be on the road, and I get to these Cracker Barrels, and Cracker Barrel's on the way, and I wanted to try it, and never had tried it before these few months, and then I did it, and then the Lord used that to turn it into something, and now the ripple effect is going further and further and further. The more Cracker Barrels, and now it's other restaurants that I do this prayer challenge in, more people are being touched by the Lord, and it's expanding, all because I was hungry. I wanted to try out a Cracker Barrel, and I did it, and on the way there, the Lord spoke to me about doing this prayer challenge thing with the serving staff there. So just go where you're at. Where do you go? Where do you frequent? What do you do normally? You go to the gym? Okay, start seeing if you can do a prayer challenge at the gym. If you go, again, the restaurants, the prayer challenge is one that I've already put out there, but what do you do? Who do you talk to? How can the Lord give you something to interact and show himself to these other people through you? Well, pray to the Lord for some type of way to connect. This is the commission. This is the gospel. This is the good news that we need to get out. And it's all about connecting with others. So we can't be doing our ministry. We can't be doing our business alone. Obviously some parts of it will be, but ultimately the Lord wants us to connect with other people and be able to show him to them. And then they will show him to others. And that's how it works. The Lord's word never returns void. Isaiah 55. It never returns void. And so there's always a seed planted. We're either planting seeds or we're watering the seeds. And then God's going to cause the growth. We have to understand it. That has to be our mindset. When we go about our regular day, how can we connect with people? How can we do something for the Lord in a simple way? And the prayer challenge is just a simple way to do that. All right. So as we finish up here in chapter 3, I'm gonna finish it out by just reading from verse 31 here. It says, "Next to him, Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs as far as the house of the temple servants and the merchants, opposite the inspection gate, and as far as the room above the corner. And between the room above the corner and the sheep gate, the goldsmiths and the merchant made repairs." All right. So we finish out chapter 3. And so again, connecting the whole business model, ministry model with Nehemiah. And we saw the first 2 chapters, how you get to there. And then the 3rd chapter, you're actually assigning the work with the people that God has given you, whether it be a ministry or business. And people do best when they're in their area of expertise. Well, your area of expertise is whatever you do, and it's right in front of you. And so utilize this as kind of a model to work through to figure out how God wants you to interact with the people around you and how he wants you to express himself through you, right? And reflect his love through you. So now we're going to finish up with a little bit of history here. With Nehemiah here, it's happening in 4446 BC. But before that, almost 100 years before that, in 539 BC, was the first wave of the captives that returned from the Babylon exile. Remember, Babylon took the Israelites into captivity. And so they were basically exiled from Jerusalem and their land here. In 539 BC, they were able to come back through some help with some of the kings that were put in place that, that conquered Babylon, that the Lord, blessed, like Cyrus, King Cyrus and all that. And so some of the Jews started to come back and return, just like the Lord said. He would scatter and then bring you back. Well, 539 BC, this is what starts to happen. In 538 BC, they began rebuilding the second temple. This is not it's not like Solomon's temple. It's nowhere near that, but it's still a calling that they got from the Lord. And so they built the second temple, or they started to begin to build the second temple in 538 BC, but it stopped. The rebuilding stopped, and it didn't restart again until 520 BC. In 520 BC, they started to build a temple again, a lot smaller. It only took them 4 years. And then in 516 BC, they completed and then dedicated that temple. Again, the second temple was completed in 516 BC. So again, we're here in 446 BC with Nehemiah now being called with this calling, this ministry to rebuild the walls around the temple in Jerusalem. Because everything was basically rubble and ruins. The temple's sitting there on a little platform, and then all around it is all ruins and rubble. It is all destroyed. So this is where God put something on Nehemiah's heart. Well, I want to talk about the temple and how it kind of came about similarly with God calling someone, actually 2 guys, to start the process just like Nehemiah. So we have in the book of Haggai, you're going to read, if you read in Haggai, what you're going to read is in the first chapter, you're going to see it there. You will read about a calling that came from the Lord, and it came through the prophet Haggai. And the Lord speaks to 2 guys through Haggai. And the 2 guys' names is Zerubbabel. He's the governor of Judah at the time. And then Joshua, the high priest. He's, not Joshua, that conquered Canaan or anything. It's a different guy. But Zerubbabel and Joshua is the guys that God called at this time to get the temple rebuilt. So what happened is the Lord places a heavy desire. He stirred up their spirit, and then he gave them his spirit to start the process in getting the rebuild on this temple done, on the second temple. And not only that, he stirs them up, gets them going, and then they do the same thing with this ministry model, with this business model. They cast a vision and they go out and recruit people, and then God stirs those people up, and then they work together. So I want to work together to get the second temple built, and it gets built and it gets done. And so what I want to do is I want to read from Haggai, just that one section, and that's how we're going to finish up here with Haggai, talking about how, God stirs everybody up. Since this is what this section is in chapter 3, is getting people stirred up and then getting people assigned to work. So we're going to read in Haggai where God did this for the second temple. In Haggai chapter 1, verse 12, this is what it says. Then Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the whole remnant of the people obeyed the voice of the Lord their God and the message of the prophet Haggai, because the Lord their God had sent him, and the people feared the Lord. Okay, so you see in that one sentence, in that one verse, you see that the Lord calls two guys through a prophet, and then those two guys, they get stirred up. They have a calling. They have this desire to rebuild the temple, just like Nehemiah has this desire to rebuild the wall. And then he goes out and he finds supporters. And when he finds supporters, they start to get to work on the temple, and they start working on the temple to get it done. So again, going along the same lines of that business model, ministry model that Nehemiah is creating for us here, is if God is calling you to this big, large project that's going to take a lot of people, he's going to stir you up. You're going to cast your vision, but then you are going to go out and recruit people. So go find people that have this same vision and calling that the Lord is going to give them. He's going to stir them up, and then you guys are all going to work together to get this project done. This big project that's going to take multiple people to get completed. As we start to get through these chapters, we're going to start to see more of this model be, explained to us through the way Nehemiah does it. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. Again, this was Nehemiah and the Prayer Challenge, part 3, and hope you come back to listen for more. Until next time, stay safe and God bless. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Radio Coffee House Show, where we're all about Jesus, coffee, and radio. We'll see you next time.